Uh, okay. Excuse me. Previously, today, this time, we would like to presentate about our discussion. Uh, we're in Group 3, Language and Education. Terdiri dari slide kedua. Ya. The member of the Group 3 is Akbar Santoso, Tia Ambarwati, Muhammad Alfi Yahya, Andi Putra Varellita, Hasna Nata, Adila Andriani, Miftakhul Nur Afifa, Bagas Prasetyo, dan Agung Prasetyo. So, before we start the presentation, we're dedicate the two person to present our material. There are Yahya and Tia. So the first time, let me give the time to Yahya.
Thank you for giving me time. So the first topics that we're going to be covering is second language teaching methods. Next. So there are many approaches to second or foreign language teaching that have been developed over the years. All methods have something to offer, and virtually any method can succeed with a gifted teacher who is a native or near native speaker. Second language teaching methods falls into two broad categories: synthetic approach and the analytic approach. Next. Synthetic approach focus on teaching of the grammatical, lexical, phonological, and functional units of the language step by step. An example of the synthetic approach is the grammar translation method favored up until the mid-1960s, in which students learn a list of vocabulary, verb paradigms, and grammatical rules. Next. Analytic approach more focused on communicative purpose for which language is used. This approach assumes that adults can extract the rules of the language from unstructured input. The synthetic and analytic approach should be viewed as the opposite ends of continuum along which various second language methods may fall. Next. So the next topic is going to be teaching reading. So there are parents that do not teach the grammatical rules of the language. People can learn language and aware of it naturally by themselves from their surrounding and environment. Next. Children learn to talk first rather than reading or writing it because they are born into cultures for which there is no written form of their language. Even when they born into literate societies, they do not learn to read, either because they suffer from a specific reading disability such as dyslexia, or because they have not been properly taught. Adding more, reading requires specific instruction and conscious efforts, whereas language acquisition doesn't. Next. So the whole word approach is by teaching the words to children by rote learning. It can be started by the words that the children hear frequently. It is ironic when people recognize that alphabetic systems are the easiest way to learn and transcribe any human language, because in Chinese, a single character corresponds to a whole word or word root, in which is too hard for the beginner to understand each words. Imperfect correspondence between sounds safe, gave, pave is the same, in which they have the silent E. Next. So the next one is going to be phonics. Phonics is teaching the letters of the alphabet and then encouraging them to sound out words based on their knowledge of the sound letter correspondence. The example, as I mentioned before, if the E is silent, then you will be easy to read safe pave because the E is silent too. So people should make a connection between sounds and letter by themselves based on exposure to the text. So in the next presentation going to be presented by Tia. The time is yours.
Thank you, Yahya, for the presentation. The third topic is going to be bilingual education. There are several kinds of bilingual programs in American school for immigrant children. These programs have the same goal, which is for all students to become bilingual. Transitional bilingual education. In this program, students receive instruction in both English and their native language, and the native language support is gradually phased out over 2 or 3 years. Bilingual maintenance. In this program, students remain in bilingual classes for their entire educational experience. This program is most likely for non-English speakers. Dual language immersion. This program is for English-speaking children. It enrolls English-speaking children in another language in roughly equal numbers. Next slide. Next slide, please. Several factors that cause different opinions about bilingual programs. Bilingual programs are considered to have a bad chance if implemented, so they cannot get the desired result. The lecturing program is too expensive for some public perception. There is anti-immigrant sentiment. There are people who believe that bilingualism is a handicap and that children will be more successful academically and socially if they master the majority language faster and overall. A bilingual class is a program that is quite effective for learning English. It is evident from studies that found that children enrolled in bilingual programs were able to outperform children in English-only programs. However, in recent years, bilingual education has been legally opposed in some states such as California, Arizona, and Massachusetts. They consider that children who study English with an English-only approach be taught English by being taught in English, better known as sheltered English immersion. For 1 year are enough to be able to learn English with the children who are in the mainstream classroom. This is not supported by researchers because in fact only 3 to 4% of children who take part in the SEI program are able to speak English for 1 year, while 13 to 14% of children from the bilingual program are able to acquire it. This is because it takes children approximately 2 to 5 years to develop oral proficiency in English and 4 to 7 years in academic English language proficiency. Next slide, please. The fourth and the last topic is Abanics. Literacy instruction is generally based on SAE, Standard American English. Ebonics, or AAE, African American English, has been created because SAE is phonologically and grammatically difficult for children who speak AAE. One approach to this problem is to present that SAE is correct to speak and AAE is substandard or incorrect. However, this approach has been criticized for being psychologically damaging and impractical. Moreover, one's language or a dialect expresses group identity and solidarity with friends and family. A child may take rejection of his language as a rejection of him and his culture. The approach that is considered positive enough to chill children with non-standard dialects is bidialectalism. This approach aims that children are proud to speak using their dialect in informal situations, such as speaking to family or friends, and use the second dialect, SAE, as a formal dialect for reading, writing, and discussion in class. Several countries, such as Switzerland, Italy, and Germany, have also implemented this bidialectalism. This underscores that this bidialectalism is fully feasible. So when applied, children can also learn the phonological and grammatical differences between AAE and SAE.
Okay, thank you for the presentation from Mas Yahya and Mbak Dia. So I give you the simple conclusion about it. So there are so many vice versa between language and education that impact each other that's so important for us to studying for it, either it's teaching, reading, or listening. There are so many approaches between there are phonics or as it said bilingual, either transitional bilingual or bilingual maintenance itself. There are so many several factors that cause different opinion about bilingual programs too. There are a lot of topics that already said from the presentation. Hope it helps you all to studying it. So thank you for the presentation. That's all from us. Good night. Thank you.